Hi everyone. This week we are discussing and reading about Vygotsky's theory, which is another theory that falls under the perspective of constructivism. And so we're going to talk about a few of the key ideas from Vygotsky's theory. And so one of the key ideas is that adults convey cultural interpretations through informal interactions and formal schooling through the process which is called mediation. And so one of the differences that I'm sure you've noticed whenever after reading Piaget and now reading Vygotsky, there's that peer piece, there's that adult piece. There's someone who is assisting, there's someone who is actually teaching throughout that process, assisting throughout that process, whereas Piaget was more of letting students explore, whereas Vygotsky, there's some type of assistance that's going on, whether it is peer assistance or some type of adult assistance. Another key idea is that every culture passes along physical and cognitive tools. And what I mean by cognitive tools is that think about whenever we're teaching someone something new, we're giving them concepts, we're giving them symbols or strategies that or other mechanisms that help learners think and act more effectively. For instance, do you remember whenever you were learning about the planets of the solar system, you were probably given some type of mnemonic device, or maybe the different parts of speech, fanboys, or maybe you were given, when you're thinking about in algebra, different algebraic symbols or different works of art. Just think about any strategies or any kind of mechanism that can help learners think effectively. That's those cognitive tools that we're using, and each culture is very, very different. There's thought and language. Thought and language becomes interdependent. Self-talk becomes inner speech. So if we're having that repetition in class, whenever we're teaching something a little more difficult and we are giving those same repetitious steps, well, eventually it's going to become our students' inner speech. So as they are figuring out this concept, they're thinking about it in their heads. What you're saying to them, they're actually saying it in their heads. Complex mental processes begin as social activities and evolve into mental activities. It's going to eventually internalize. Children appropriate cultural tools to meet their needs. Children can perform more challenging tasks when assisted. So again, that's that one of those key concepts of Vygotsky's theory, that assistance. And we can do that by teaching them within their zone of proximal development. So those challenging tasks promote cognitive growth, and we allow children to stretch themselves cognitively. So when we look at zone of proximal development, when we're looking at this illustration here, in the green is what I can do on my own. In the blue is what I can't do. Even if I try to do it, even if someone helps me to do it, I still can't do it. It's too difficult. But in that purple is what I can do with help. That is where that zone of proximal development is, and that's where we have to gauge, that's the zone that we have to teach our students in. Now, each individual is going to have a different zone of proximal development, so we have to determine where that is through maybe some type of pre-assessment, through previous grades, and so we will determine where that is. But in order to teach our students effectively, we have to teach within that zone of proximal development, and we can do that through assistance, through helping them. And so I talked a little bit about I talked a little bit about the differences between Piaget and Vygotsky, some of the similarities, the age and experience matters with both Vygotsky and Piaget. They both believe that challenging activities are important. They believe that cognitive readiness is child specific. Each child is different. Now, some of the differences, remember I mentioned that Piaget believes in self-exploration and self-discovery versus Vygotsky believes that it should be more guided exploration and guided instruction. Culture has a big influence in Vygotsky's theory, and so is the role of language. Now, when we, again, talking about that guided exploration and instruction, one way we can do that is through the use of scaffolding. So scaffolding is any techniques that can help students accomplish challenging tasks in instructional contexts. So think about ways that even if you have not taught in front of a group of students or a group of kids before, think about any time that you are trying to explain something new to someone. It could be if you have kids, what about the first time you taught them how to tie their shoes? Or maybe the first time you taught them how to ride their bike? Or maybe just anything that you are teaching someone for the first time. Think about some things that you did. Did you maybe show them first before you did it? I know I recently taught two of my kids how to tie their shoes right before school starts, and I showed them first. I showed them a few times. I modeled it for them, and then even after I showed them the whole process, then I gave my son one shoe and I had one shoe, and then we went step by step. Okay, first we're going to loop it really tight, and then he did the same thing, and then we're going to wrap that loop really tight, and he did the same thing. So step by step. Okay, maybe maybe sometimes you draw a picture, or maybe sometimes if you're teaching them about something totally new and maybe there's some vocabulary, maybe there's just terminology that they're not familiar with, maybe you're explaining to them, you know, here are the parts of an engine, here are the different parts of whatever. So think about any of those techniques. Those are all various ways that we can scaffold. And so for your assignment for this week, I want you to look at Blackboard, and I'm going to have more detailed instructions on Blackboard, but I want you to look at this document here called Scaffolding Strategies. And so here are 6 scaffolding strategies that we can use with our students. This is not all encompassing by any means. There are many more ways that we can scaffold, but these are probably the 6 that we use the most. And so if you can read through this, show and tell is one. For instance, just like what I was giving an example a few minutes ago by showing my son how to tie his shoes. Show and tell, tap into prior knowledge, give time to talk is another one, pre-teach vocabulary is one, use visual aids, pause, ask questions, pause, review. So as you read through these, I'm sure you're thinking, oh gosh, I do this all the time. I didn't realize that it was called scaffolding. Yes, it is. So it's actually just simple strategies and techniques that we use, but it's all different ways that we help someone learn something else. And so for this week's assignment, what I want you to do, you're actually going to create a video, short video, probably about 2 minutes. I'll have more details online, but you're going to create a short video. First, you're going to sign up for a particular scaffolding technique, a scaffolding strategy, and you are going to think about something that you can teach to someone else, and you're going to showcase how you're going to do that. So for instance, it can be something as simple as teaching your child how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you're doing that through show and tell. Or it can be showing someone how to tie their shoes. It doesn't have to be, if it's only adults in your household, well then you can teach them anything. Maybe it's something that you're passionate about that you want to teach. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be something in your specific content area. It can just be something every day. But I want you to use one of those scaffolding strategies. So I'm going to create a Google Doc that you can sign up for a specific strategy, and then you'll use that strategy to then teach a common task to someone else. You're going to video it and you'll upload it to Blackboard. And within that video, if you can also tell me what, or you can even label, if you want to even label the video, the name of the strategy. Maybe it can be show and tell video or pre-teach vocabulary video, etc. Okay. So I look forward to your submissions, and we will talk more in the next lecture. Thank you.